Let there be light, and there was light. In the famous words of the goddess, the spokes goddess, the said God, the serpent in the Garden of Eden, this is the Mother Eve, who said those wonderful words that brought out life. When Adam, for instance, was given or presented his wife, he named her Eve because she was the mother of all living. He recognized that his wife was the mother of mother. We could say that, or the mother of mothers was her mother. So basically, there was an Eve, the grand Eve of the universe, by which or by whom her words had taken flight, and everything had come into being. As it is said, the word was made flesh and dwelt amongst men. So there, among men, to be more precise in King James Version. So there, of course, it's like if you were Smith and you had your son, of course he would also be Smith, and so on, and the generations go on, and that's how we see a name becomes a character. And that's how Adam's wife was also Eve, who was in the Garden of Eden. So we are talking about the grandness and the most magnificent Eve that we know about now in Genesis of chapter 1 verse 3. The God said, she is the spokesperson, she is the letter, and she is the teller. She is letting us know, and she is telling us about this wonderful story that we ought to know. In fact, now she's saying, turn the other side of the coin and listen. Just like a serpent in the garden, in our garden, because she is within us, and she is saying, listen, listen. The S syllable that we hear, the S sound, is very much her presence. And so when we hear this sound, like the word or with the S, that's why she loves music. That's why she loves words. She loves the utterance of our speech. She loves signs, seasons, and all those were her words that she brought into the chapter of Genesis 1 verse 3. So let us further examine that wonderful verse that brought all things into creation, all things into being. So we know about the first verse. It gives the grand introduction of what happened. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And then in the second verse, it says, and the earth was without. It draws our attention to what was with and out. But in our everyday speaking, when we say without, we only think of the projection of what is out there. But we don't think about the with aspect. The word with equals 6. That means we are 6, the number of man. Nothing is without us. Nothing is, when we say without, it's like, I've got to rephrase this again. Everything is with us and without us, in essence of what we are trying to explain. Meaning we are, as long as we are making representation to something, we are connected to that thing. As much as we may think we are not, of course we can have an objective look, which is what we try to do when we say without. But that is us projecting ourselves, that aspect ourselves outwardly. That is where we are able to make an outward representation or expression. So this is what the second verse of the Bible is about. It really draws an objective representation of our inward aspect, of our makeup, of that which we are. So it says the world was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. So there we have a face. We are making reference about a face. And that is what we do when we look in the mirror or look at somebody else. We make reference of a face, meaning the outward representation of what is or what is not, however we choose to make that representation. So as long as we're saying something is not, we are also saying it is. We are only making a reference of the side of that which we are wanting to see. The with or the without, or the within or the without, or within, without, or up or down. Because our makeup now is like we have been with that aspect of ourselves to see one side at a time, looking at, knowing that there is a nose between, or a bridge between the two eyes. So there is a makeup or a mindset that makes us see one side of something, or at any given moment, even if we are using both eyes. But there is an aspect of our makeup that gives us a divide, that makes us see one side, the 2D or the 3D, whatever it is, how we look at an object or a situation. Mother Eve now wants us to look at the other side of the coin, the other side of the story of Eve and Adam in the garden, the other side of the beginning. And the word beginning has so many ends in it that tells us that there are many ends and many beginnings. So we have begin. We have really been playing with this word. We say playing because that's what it seemed like the serpent would do when we are present. That's what it is when someone gives you a present. You open it up. That's what we first know as children. We play with presents. We have fun with them. And in that fun, that's what the child does. The child learns from having fun. And this is why I often say, this is the channel where we are having fun with words and numbers. Because in that we are able to learn. We are learning in a fun way and excluding the aspect of someone else's imposition on that which we are doing. So we are more present with our present. Okay. So just to show you, we have done a few presentations on the word beginning. We understand the word beginning has in it the N word, and it has two N. As if it were giving us a message that it has two ends. The two ends, because that's the language we have been blessed with, to say two ends, and that means in beginning, as it has two ends, it's like literally saying there are two ends of the spectrum, but it comes as a whole. Because the whole is like a circle, and where is the beginning, there is the end. So basically, if we had started our circle at this point here, going clockwise, and we would end this way. Wherever we start our end, if we were there, it would be the same thing. We would be continuing clockwise, or whether it were anti-clockwise, we would still be having two ends that would be forming our circle. And that is the juice the word beginning is giving us. What we are learning is that the words themselves, the constructs of the words, are giving us a pictorial image of what is. In essence, that pictorial image is giving us a sense of our actions, we could say, or situations, or a cycle. It's really getting to understand that when it is said we are made in God's image and likeness, that we come back, we go into a cycle and going back to that God that made in image, likeness. Everything is doing a cycle. And those cycles had been before, because that is the cycle, as if we are replicating a cycle. We are cycles on top of cycles. In essence, we are motions on top of motions. We are breaths on top of breaths. We are speech on top of speech. Words on top of words. All these, like each word that I am uttering has a cycle, and then those words are forming cycles on top of cycles to form a sentence or a paragraph or a page. That's what the beginning is offering us when we understand this. Now you may say, well, what is all that meaning? What does it mean to us? It means it gives us an insight. For instance, that creation is not just like where we have picked up from Adam and Eve's story. There was a creation before that. A reaction was done. In that we are these cycles, because it's also helping us to understand who we are, understand more of our makeup, where the memories or the templates of our actions have derived from. So to think that, for instance, we were born and with a blank slate, we may say it was a blank slate because there's a lack of expression of that which we have actually come into being, or we come into this world with. It's like going to another country, for instance. It is the same template. If I live here and go to the United States, as soon as I get or land at the airport, although I am with all my memory and everything that I am no longer thinking about my room in the UK, or my or the bus or the train or the house. No, my thoughts are now with the environment that I have been birthed into. I have been birthed into an environment that has in it, although there is the projection of my thoughts, or to make a reference. So there is a house, I see a house, because then I know what a house is, but I am no longer thinking about the house that I left. I am thinking about the house that I am now seeing, or the train that I have now boarded on. I may make reference to it and say, oh, well, it looks a little bit different to the one in the UK, but I am preoccupied with what is before me. I may not even have so much time to make those references in that way, because there might be other people. I might be seeing how they dress, whether they dress or their accent, or they speak differently, or how they move. So my thoughts would be predominantly with the makeup or environment of the USA at that stage. And that's what it's like being birthed into this into this world now, or how we were birthed into this world. Mother Eve, the serpent, the snake, the grand goddess of speech and language, who wants us to listen now, is now telling me to tell us, tell the children, come and listen, because she wants to relate her story. It's no longer his story, her story to us. Let us really now turn the other side of the coin. Now she wants to say that everything is cycle on top of cycle, and it is the divine feminine that births everything. That births everything. She is the door. So when the door opens, that's Mother Eve. When the door is shut, that's Mother Eve. She wants you to think, just like she was asking Job to think. Job, the righteous man in the Bible. She was asking Job, whose name is also equivalent to number 9. When I say also, we will cover that later, to 9, was that Job is a job to birth new things. It's the birthing. The word birth equals 3, and we see the subsequent birthing in that Mother Eve is saying, whenever the door opens, that's me. Even when it is shut, that's me. When you hear speech, that's me. When you hear the sound and seasons and signs and seasons, that's me. Me is 9. And she has deposited that me in every one of us. That may have to birth newness, and subsequently at each cycle we are birthing that newness. She says it's like the child is birthed into the world. That's the divine feminine, which is the serpent. She births newness through speech and through language, and she wants us to pay attention to the words that we use. She says we have taken it for granted far too long and been using words idly, not taking consideration the impact of the words. And that's why she has drawn our attention now to Genesis of chapter 1 verse 3, where she says, "Let there be light," and there was light. That is where all of creation came into being. And that is where the 14 Eves were. That is where the 7 oceans were birthed, 7 seas were birthed. That is where the 7 visible planets were birthed. She is showing us as well the power of 7. She has been showing us the power of 1, because 1 is in the word let, which is 10. Now in that word let, this is where she births out everything in the number 10. I am revisiting this time and time because Mother Eve is really guiding me to do this. In the word let, which equals 1. But let's do this. So we go back to that word let. It's a word that is used often to here in the UK for letting out apartments. And it is so perfectly in tune with what we are saying, because house is Mother Eve. Mother Eve is housing us, because the word house equals 5. So the word home equals 5. And it is there to show the magnitude and the wisdom of the English language, that although there may be thousands and millions of words, that they all come in either 1 to 9 in numerical value. And there is where we have the gift of the mathematical construct to make sense of all the words. So the word let, you see the estate agents, for instance, they all are letting agents. This is, you see the sign, to let. It's rent, to rent a place, but it says to let. I haven't done the numerical value for the word rent, but let's do let first, which is 3. And she continues to show us the magnitude of the 3, the magnitude of the magic of 3. So here we have 3, 2, 5, 3, because she's asking us to count backward as well. So I'm getting into this 2, 5, 3. So this is 7 plus 3 is 10. So we are looking at 10. And this is a wonderful place to begin. I have done a series of presentations that looks at each number, for instance, and that's where we were at, looking at number 1, 2, 3 to 9. And I think we could also really gel this with the template to numerology. So basically we see here that 10 in the word let gives us the construct of male and female. So we have 10, and the second word is there, which is where it's the incubation. There, when we say something is there, it is in an incubator. That is what, and that is so vital for us to get to understand. Once something is in an incubator, it is germinating. It is there for a purpose. Something is happening. As much as it is getting the right nourishment, environment, or whatever it is, it's going to grow. It's going to grow. If it is not getting that right condition or whatever it is, it's going to sink lower into the south, which is in the number 2 as well. So it's still in the incubator. The incubator is that which holds life and death. It holds everything, good and bad, he and her, the up and down. It is the YouTube in essence. It is that which in fact you is you, the letter U or the word U is 7, which is like 1. It is complete. It is saying it is whole. Because when we do the numerical value for the word 1, it equals ONE, which is 655, and we add this together is 16. 1 plus 6 is 7. So we can see how 1, when we speak of 7, we are speaking of 1. On the other hand, when we speak of the word 7, we are also speaking of 2. So, or 11, I think it's 2, S-E-V-E-N. But so much so that Mother Eve is right in there to show us how 2 really comes into being there, because the 2 is consolidated, the 2 sevens is consolidated in Mother Eve. So 7 plus 7, which is 2 sides of the gods, of the 14 gods, which I have not mentioned in this presentation, but Mother Eve is consolidated, is the consolidation of the 2 sets of 7 gods, which is 14, right there in the word 7. Let's do this again so you get it. So we see how let is 10. It is masculine and feminine. But of course, to move on, because everything breeds after its kind. So the 0 and the 1 had got together like a man and woman gets together and they have a child. And then, of course, this is here we are talking about the Trinity. So we are looking at 7. We have seen how 1 becomes 7. And S-E-V-E-N is 1, 5, 4, 5, 5. So what Mother Eve really wants us to pay attention to the construct of words. And because we have so many words, we may feel it a little bit burdensome to really do this. We can have fun with this. We can really have fun with this. So this is Mother Eve right here. When we add this together, this is 14 right here. 14, and 7 plus 7 is 14. So we see when we did that one formula of equation which came to 7, we see how Mother Eve is that which encapsulate the 2 sevens. And the 2 sevens, as I say, is 2 sets of is the 14 gods we have discovered in Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2. So chapter 1 is 9 gods, the 9 gods that formed, that made, that called, that saw, that divided. I'm trying to get the list. that divided and so on. Yes. And breathed, created, moved, separated, planted, blessed, and the said God is the overall God here. Now, this is what is important for us to remember. So with those 14 gods, I may have missed one, but this is where the 14 gods come in. And they are the consolidation of Mother Eve. Or Mother Eve in actually is the consolidation of all the 14 gods. Now Mother Eve is in the 7, showing us as a serpent, which equals 7 as well. So one serpent equals 7. And the 7 that was in the Garden of Eden. She is also showing us something very wonderful, because she is working with us intuitively. And then she shows us, particularly when we encounter a word that have the S at the beginning, she is really saying this is where her presence is very much felt, like in the word 7. And at the end, so when we count the two ends of these numerical values, we get the number 6. It's like she is really telling us we are 6 as the number of man. The N at the end is that we are the 5-pointed star. We are Eve. She is our mother. The serpent is our mother. She has given birth to us, because this is 5 here. The 14, 1 plus 4 is 5. We are the makeup of those 14 gods. When we hear the chatters in our minds that really tells us all sorts of things, some negative or positive, however we saw them or acted on them, or we have those sequence of streams of thoughts. These are streams of thoughts of the makeup of the 14 gods that we are. This is what is now being explained here very clearly in the 7. We hear 7 oceans, 7 days of the week, 7 there are so many 7s, but when it comes to saying them, but we have all these 7 visible planets, and so on. So we hear those 7s, and we know of course how significant these are in our makeup, in our existence. So there, Mother Eve in the 7, she is central to our makeup here. We learn that she is responsible for the fall of man. But as I say, and I believe, I'm not even sure if it is Mother Eve going through me with this, but it makes perfect sense in that which I am seeing. That which is responsible for the fall is also responsible for the rise. That means if we feel that Mother Eve is responsible for mankind's falling into what we call sin, which was SIN, SCENE, and also SEEN. These are the scenes that we are construct of. Then Mother Eve is also the one who is really showing us how to take our rise into the world, because she had brought us through a journey, and she knows that journey, of course. If it's that we were up there, she had met us at a point where we were at. She can equally be that guide to showing us the point where we ought to be to take our rise, because life is cycles, like a circle. So she's showing us now, just as she takes her curls and and coils herself. She also uncoils herself as the rod, as we have seen in the movie of the 10 Commandments. She was the rod of Moses that also turned into the serpent. This is what she is showing us. This is all our man's purpose, is to understand him or herself as a rod and as a serpent, as rigid and as supple, as high and as low, as thin and as wide, as shut and as open, as blind and as sight, as visible and invisible. That is the journey that we are here to take to understand our makeup, and to understand that makeup we have come in human form to do this, and Mother Eve is our guide in helping us to do that. That's why we have been given Mother Eve, our mother, as a gift. When you have a mother, you have a gift, because she is your primal source of nurturing. She is your primal source of sense of self. So we have done our stories about our mothers, because she weaned us of the breasts to let us explore all the areas and events and situations of life. We have cursed her in the past for depriving us of the breast. And then we have moved on to other things, but we have not appreciated her act of kindness was to allow us to experience the gift of all that which we are. But now she's calling us back to really help us see the other side of the coin. It was like the prodigal son who had taken his inheritance in her inheritance. The word inheritance is saying in her stance, or we could say that, but there is a her right there, is saying the nurturing part. So wherever we go, she is still with us, but she wants us, she's calling on our attention to let us know that she is there with us. That's why she says come. The word come, I believe, equals 10. So come. And of course there is me right there, the M-E at the end. So of course this is where she is at the end. The 5 is at the end. We usually have the C sound as well, as the S for the C in come. But this is again Mother Eve letting us know, when we take those the two last letters, we can always do that to get the essence of a word. We see in the middle of the word come, there is the mantra, the mantra, which is very powerful in Hinduism, I believe. The right here. And we have the C and E at the end. So the C and E equals, this is 5 and 3, gives us the whole, which is 8. When we add this together, we get 8 right here. This is what Mother Eve had done. She ate. She came. This is also what is we relate to in a sexual interaction or encounter with another person. We use the word come, and then there is a climax, and that's what Mother Eve is asking us to do. Come and get that climax, and to be that number 5. So again, we see the word and if we were to turn the M into whatever direction, it also forms the petal, the 8-petal flower. The 8-petal flower is whole. It is that which is versatile. Okay, now I also just want to see the word rent, as I mentioned before. Okay, R-E-N-T for let. R-E-N-T. Don't know if you can see this. Okay, let's look at the red one. Oh, wonderful. rent. So this is 2, 5, RE 5. Again, when we see 9 and 5 together, we are looking at beginning and end. Beginning and end. So this is 10, 19, 20, 21. So 2 plus 1 is 3. Now, that's what I was talking about in the word let, because the first letter of the word let, which is L, it has the numerical value of 3. And we see rent is 3. So when people have the sign to rent or to let, they are still connecting right here. And let, of course, is to tell, as I say. So there is a communication going here. And that's why we have, even in banks or businesses, you have the teller. We see the cashier is the teller. Go to that till, it's the teller. And that what are we doing there? We let. There's a letting. There's an allowance happening there. An exchange is happening right there. And that in itself, of course, whenever we are the customer and the cashier is together, there's an exchange. An exchange or interaction or an encounter that brings forth something else. And so this is how we are going to examine this word again. On my next presentation, I am going to further explore the word there again. Please join me again on the Crime Queen channel of Actualizing Self-Full Love. So I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope you have found this insightful, intriguing, and fun too, of course. And the word fun equals 5. So let there be light in your understanding of this this presentation. And I say, let there be light, and there was light. So I use this now as an affirmation, and of course hoping that it brings about that transformation. I'm being very transparent here. I am going with the guidance of Mother Eve. So thank you for joining us. Oh, be bliss-filled, be bright, be ignited, and well, whatever else, be light. Okay, thank you.